Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of GamerVision. I cannot remember if it's, I think around 27. I probably should have checked that before we started filming. I think it's 27.
I don't know. I lost count at
I,
like episode 3.
I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and we've got the one and only Tony from Procedurally Generated.
Howdy,
How you
howdy,
doing,
everybody.
Tony?
I am doing wonderful. We have finally hit that time frame for not E3 this year, and stuff is starting to
Yeah,
happen, and it's kind of exciting.
that's we're starting to see companies come out and either make announcements, or in the case of Ubisoft, say we have no announcements, so we're not doing anything. Um, Hopefully everything's good in the Just Dance land.
I was
Um,
really hoping we'd get more Aisha Tyler this year.
Outside of that, Sony did put together one of their, I think it's safe to say, best state of plays. I would probably give it like a C plus, maybe like a B minus. I think it was a solid showing of third party stuff, and VR was kind of there. Um, but the bar is pretty low
Yeah,
with state of plays. It's either they kind of they hover between that F and D rank. Um,
yeah. I usually come away from most Sony states of play going, "There's nothing in that I want to play. I don't care about
yeah,
Last of Us. I don't care about that brown shooter. I don't care about that brown shooter, and I don't care
yeah,
about that brown shooter." Um,
yeah,
this
yeah.
one, I came away from this one with a couple of titles that I've got my eye on now, and some stuff that looks pretty interesting.
That's it was touted as being focused on third parties in VR, and what we kind of talked a little bit before the show is that I'm surprised that there wasn't more VR. Like they were setting everyone's expectations to on these two things, and really all they showed was things that we already knew
Yeah,
about, except for like yeah, of the four titles that they showed that were VR titles, two of them we already knew about.
yeah.
Um, well, we one of them we already knew about, one of them that kind of seemed like a no-brainer, and not really surprised that Resident Evil 8 was going to feature VR support
Well,
because Resident
considering
Evil 7 did.
I think 7 launched with VR support, didn't it?
I think so. That's so it wasn't too surprising on that field or that front. Um, I really thought I don't know. This might have been just a little bit of my optimism showing, and I need to remember that I'm more jaded now than I've ever been. So to keep my expectations and my optimism in check, but I really thought that we were going to get some launch date information
Yeah.
about PSVR 2, like price, maybe some bundles, the launch date, and none of that happened.
I'm
Um,
almost betting if they haven't said anything by now, we may not get it this year. It may be early next year before
yeah,
VR2 comes out.
I mean between that and the pretty consistently wild speculations that God of War Ragnarok will also be pushed back to 2023, which I mean half of the year is over now. Um, so in the previous episode we started talking about like how windows were closing for some things,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to get on the bandwagon that this is going to be a 2023 title from the Sony Santa Monica studio peoples. Um, but you know, I'm not exactly the biggest supporter of VR. I think it's cool. I think the technology still has a lot of room to grow, and we're starting to get to where equipment is getting better with it. Um, so I wasn't necessarily going into it expecting like big announcements for VR that would just completely change my mind, but I was hoping for some
Yeah.
launch information.
The
But
pricing of VR2 is going to be the most important thing because
yeah,
PlayStation VR was the best, the lowest, I think the lowest barrier to entry really aside from like Oculus, which isn't
yeah,
as powerful as any of the other VR headsets, but if you wanted to get some, fairly really high quality stuff, PlayStation VR was the best way to go about it.
yeah,
And pricing is going to be for the foreseeable future still the biggest barrier of entry for getting that to be a mass adoption type of technology.
So I guess just briefly for just speculation purposes, considering that you're going to have a PlayStation 5,
Hmm.
so minimum you're looking at $400 for the digital edition. What would you speculate or guesstimate? Because with the existing VR set, I think it was like $300.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing that you're going to have to drop at least 400 to get hardware or the system to be able to use it, like what would you think price would be for, the PSVR 2? Like what do you think is that sweet spot versus like, that capitalism
That's a
mindset
that's a
of
good
how much we
question.
can get out of it?
300 is not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't look at the cost of both the system and the VR as sort of the same thing, because most people think with VR you've got to have a computer, but you've got to have a really high end computer to do some good VR stuff.
Yeah.
I would say probably if they can get it to 250, that would be a really good spot for them.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be very doable. I mean, with the way that everything's going, like digital purchases and streaming, and then the rolling out of the new plus and stuff. Like there's definitely plenty of other avenues that they can generate money off of.
Hmm.
So it is something that they could get 250. I feel like if they go above 350, it's going to really put it out of the ballpark for a lot of people
Yeah.
because like you're already having to drop a minimum of $400.
Yeah. If you're
And
getting
and
if you're getting close to the cost of two PS5s, that's not going to be
yeah,
the kind of money that a lot of people are going to be wanting to put out to get
and
something
that's
that's going to have a lot of niche sort of experiences.
yeah, and that's not even talking about like the cost of the games, like being able to get the games whether they're on the streaming service or whatever's going to be happening soon. Um, but my biggest takeaway from the state of play was obviously Final Fantasy 16.
Hmm.
I was hoping for a little bit more. Looks great. I'm so glad, so happy to see what they're doing with the summons. Like that looks incredible for those.
There is
Like
all kinds of particle effects and smoke and
yeah,
light and
yeah, yeah. Like Square Enix knows how to make a spectacle for some of that stuff, and
yes, they absolutely do.
I'm excited to see more of it. I'm a little disappointed that it's not coming out this year, but that's fine. Take your time with it. Do not rush it. I
Yeah.
do not want another Final Fantasy 15 debacle. I don't need movies and anime and TV shows and all kinds of additional things to make me enjoy the game more. So, um, but with the state of play out of the way, we have, some would say, their closest rival. Microsoft has a showing coming up very, very soon. I think it's the 12th is when they're doing their big old shindig.
Think so?
Um, the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, which for me, Starfield. I need to see Starfield, but
I think for a lot of people they need to see Starfield.
yeah, like actual Starfield,
Like
not CG
like
stuff.
we know it's not coming out this year. We need to
Yeah.
see what that game is going to be.
Um, and depending, I haven't seen like any like timestamps or anything for it, but like I want to see Starfield, but I also want to hear some of the stuff about the rumored or the speculation surrounding like Fable. I would like to see the return of Fable, just because like
Yeah.
I feel like we've seen enough Halo, we've seen enough Gears, we've seen enough Forza. Um, it would be nice to see some of these RPGs come back to the forefront.
Mhm.
And uh, Fable's been dormant for a while. They've had a couple projects that started and then got canned and then just withered away. But what are you looking forward to?
Uh, Project Milo would probably be my biggest. No, uh,
Let it die. Let
no,
it die.
I fully expect we'll probably see Forza 8 at the show. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
Forza is one of, if not, you know, getting close to the biggest franchise that Microsoft has at this point.
yeah,
Um,
it's definitely gaining a lot of steam. Or
Forza 8 will probably be a no-brainer. I don't know what really to expect from Microsoft. I mean, they've got a lot of
yeah,
studios that have to have been working on a bunch of stuff because we haven't seen a ton of titles come from all of those studios. that they bought.
Yeah. Um, I guess one question would be, do you think it's too early to see like Activision announcements of like exclusive or timed exclusive things for like Call of Duty and
Yeah. I don't expect we'll probably see anything from the Activision acquisition yet because that hasn't gone through. I mean, it's going to. It's
yeah, yeah,
almost
true.
it's almost assuredly going to, but they're not going to
Yeah,
be able to talk about anything that they're working on uh,
yeah.
until that happens. Um, I
And
guess it's
I
possible Activision could make some, announcement saying, "Hey, the next Call of Duty expansion is going to come to the Xbox first." But I
yeah,
don't know that we're going to see anything like that. We might see the announcement of the new Crash game. I know there's a bunch of rumors about
yeah.
Crash getting
The
another
irony.
game,
Um,
which is fine. I am all for Toys for Bob. Let Toys for Bob take those old PlayStation mascots and just have fun with them.
yeah, I mean,
Spyro needs a new game. Crash, I would be perfectly okay with him getting another game.
yeah. Um, which, kind of looking at these acquisitions and stuff, we could. I think it's too soon for. Oh, I just had the name. The Tokyo Ghostwire Tokyo. I think it's too soon for that, but we might start seeing the rounds of Deathloop again.
Yeah,
I, just now that we are, I think we're close to being about a year since that game hit PS5.
let's
So
see.
I
I was
wouldn't,
just thinking about Deathloop. I'm going to look up the release date now and see.
and obviously the biggest announcement about that with like if they were to show Deathloop for Xbox on during their event, um, obviously it's going to be coming to Game Pass.
Hmm.
So seeing that massive influx of players, uh, you know, it'll be interesting to see just how many people waited for the timed exclusivity to
Yeah,
end for them to be able to play it on Xbox or PC or whatever device they want to play
yeah.
it on because of XCloud.
Yeah, Deathloop came out in September of last year, so it's definitely not
Okay.
out of the realm of possibility to say, "Hey, get ready, September 2022, Deathloop coming to
Yeah.
Game Pass."
Yeah. And that's I think Ghostwire a little too soon, but you know, that's something that they can kind of save for next year or maybe the Game Awards, possibly.
The Fall
Just because,
Keeleys.
yeah, yeah, the old Keeleys. Um, but yeah, like that's definitely. I think right now Microsoft has a really strong upper hand right now. They have a lot of studios, both new and old and acquired, to see what could happen next. Maybe something with Wolfenstein, maybe something with Doom.
We may
Uh,
see, not Maniac Mansion. We may see some Monkey Island stuff.
Fall, which I don't really know much about. I didn't really look up that. I think it's like a survival game or something. But it'll be interesting to see if they show off anything for that.
What I expect and what I'm looking forward to is seeing what is next for their cloud initiative. What
Which,
is the future of xCloud going to look like? Because they're going to continue to sort of put the foot on the accelerator for that. Whether we
yeah,
see whatever the streaming stick is shown off, there's been some rumblings behind the scenes that maybe that's in a little bit of trouble right now, and they're needing to rework it a little bit.
I guess since we're talking about PSVR pricing as well, what do you think a device like that would cost? Like, do you think they would aim for like a $100 thing to get it
That's
into?
probably going to be no more than about $100.
Because yeah, like if they can pair that with Game Pass, just like hey, you buy this little device and in the box you've got 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate,
Yeah.
just being able to play no matter what device you hook this thing up to.
I would not be surprised to see something like that be as low as maybe like 70. Because the lowest end Fire Sticks are $20, and you can play anything
Oh yeah,
um, for Luna on the cheapest Fire Sticks. And so if you put a $50 controller $20 streaming stick together for $70 with 3 months of
Yeah.
Game Pass, that is an incredible uh,
Yeah.
entry into not only streaming but just games in general for people who maybe think even $300 is out of their price range for a console, which that is for a lot of people still. Um,
Yeah.
but $100 is something they could possibly scrape together and be like, hey, now I get to play all these games that everybody is talking about, and I can do it wherever I want.
Yeah. Whether it's Chromebook, laptop, desktop, your TV. Obviously, when we're talking about streaming and stuff, we've got like xCloud versus Luna versus Stadia. Um, like with the instead of it being the console wars, now it's the streaming wars. Um, if Microsoft makes this announcement where they've got their own streaming stick to go, head to head, pretty much with the Fire Stick from Amazon, do you see Amazon taking an even more aggressive stance to get more content for Luna to kind of keep people within their ecosystem, since Microsoft would be, in theory, going after kind of a similar market with.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
really good question. I know there's a lot of things that I see that Amazon could do to make Luna a more appealing, place to play for a lot of people. That involves direct purchases, buying PC games and having them just appear in your Luna library. Um, I I think Amazon is genuine, and I think they're really interested in this gaming push. They still have studios that are working on games behind the scenes, and um, I see them being the best positioned to make that push and become sort of the fourth of the big gaming companies behind Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony. Um,
yeah.
the
Well,
question's going to be, do they get the right people in place to make that happen?
because yeah, like in the early going for Stadia, like Google was like they were getting incredible minds to run Stadia, and it just kind of over the last like 2 years they've really shifted what they considered Stadia to
Hmm.
be geared towards. Um, it's still around, it's still operating, it still has its storefront,
Yeah,
and
but it's going through a lot of turmoil right now.
um, and like the people that the executives are having to answer to are changing, and like all kinds of stuff, and like I kind of wonder like how long Phil Harrison will still be at the helm of Stadia, because like uh, with all of the momentum that Microsoft has with xCloud and all of the momentum that Amazon is developing with Luna, it seems like Stadia has really just stagnated and
Yeah.
hasn't really done much um, over the last like 6 months to a year.
To be fair,
Um,
Luna also goes through. Luna has this sort of more up and down throughout the year, sort of
yeah,
trajectory. They get really high for a while, then they start to fade off, and you see fewer and fewer titles come out. Then they announce some big thing, and there's a huge influx of games that come to the service, and um,
yeah,
the
but
the tech behind it is fantastic. The Luna controller, I was not sold originally on the idea of having a controller connected to your Wi-Fi to make it seem, to make it more uh, lag free, and it works. Like it actually does make a difference, and so that's one thing that Microsoft is also going to have to look at.
June 12th,
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has their big showing. It'll be interesting to see. They're pretty much we still haven't seen anything from Nintendo. So as of right
Nintendo
now,
is quiet.
which could be good, could be bad. It's you never really know with Nintendo. They just announce things and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're doing a direct now,
Yeah, well,
and
of course, now that we've said that, as soon as we wake up in the morning, Twitter will be a buzz because Nintendo has
yeah,
announced their direct for, Thursday morning or whatever.
and
So,
I saw a notification before we started filming. Uh, Wario64 shared something that is, the Nintendo announcement we've all been waiting for. So I clicked on it. I don't know if it's a joke or not. I didn't really dig too much deeper into it, but apparently there is a sequel coming for 1-2 Switch.
Yeah,
So
that's probably not going to happen. I've been actually following that since they originally talked about that, and that game is showing internally at Nintendo abysmally. People that is there if that game comes out,
uh,
it would be a laughing stock in the state that it's currently in.
but with Microsoft show coming up, it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see what some of these puzzle pieces are going to be, because there is so many question marks going into this holiday season. With Starfield being pushed back, Redfall getting pushed back. Um, I don't really, I can't think of anything that Microsoft has for this holiday season. So to be, um, you know,
Yeah.
I don't imagine that they'd have anything massive being announced that will release this
Yeah,
holiday
but
season.
they have a lot of opportunity to surprise us because we don't know what's
Yeah,
happening for the rest of
yeah.
the year.
I'm actually just got the Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. Yeah,
Have you
I said it right.
updated that since yesterday?
Just downloaded it today,
Okay.
so I'm hoping Sony's got their weird things with the updates and stuff, but gonna try to get some playtime over on Twitch.
They have
Uh,
finally added VR to that. Does it have crossplay?
I'm not sure. I know that there's a slew of voice tracks that they've added. Um, all sorts of, like, there was a huge like data dump on it. We're gonna try to get some streaming stuff going for that. Obviously, you guys are doing your stuff over at Procedurally Generated. What's the games of choice for you guys over there?
It's still on Wednesdays. We're doing Destiny 2. I have started streaming some Wonder Boy, the Wonder Boy collection on Switch. I started the first episode of that last night. I'm probably going to play through some of those games.
Yeah, I think for the most part we have a lot of stuff that's going to be happening over the next. There's going to be a lot of, even just the Microsoft stuff by themselves. There's
Hmm.
still Summer Games Fest, which I don't really know what to expect from that. But
Well,
yeah,
Jeff Keighley says temper your expectations. So,
yeah, but yeah, in the comments, let us know what you think. We've got so much stuff that's going to be hitting across both of our procedurally generated, just one more level, YouTube, Twitch, your podcasts and everything on Podbean, uh, and everywhere else. Just let us know what you're thinking in the comments of what you want to see from the Microsoft show. Anything from Bethesda, the Summer Games Fest, the Keeleys, later this year, whatever. And we'll see you with the next episode of GamerVision here on YouTube.
bye,
See
everybody.
ya.